Welcome to our Urban Legends podcast. I'm Dr. Gloria McDaniel Hall. I've been a teacher, a principal, and assistant superintendent, all within urban schools in Chicago and around the country. Our Urban Legends podcast is a forum for sharing ideas, strategizing together, and supporting each other as we dismantle the deficit narratives sometimes associated with urban education and discuss where and how amazing work is being done. So welcome everyone to the newest edition of my Urban Legends podcast. And today I am really excited because I don't even know what you would characterize Lachrisa as. She does all the stuff, you all. I met her through another friend who also does amazing work. And so when I was getting ready for today, it was like the power of connection. Like if I had never met Heather, I would have never met Lachrisa. I would have never read this amazing book that she just finished. But anyway, so we are going to get a chance to meet Ms. Lachrisa Grandberry today. And before we get started, I always have people kind of like take us through their journey. So Lachrisa, just tell us about your life story.
Oh, that's thick. That's a thick question.
Usually I ask people about their journey in education, but yours is slightly different. Tell us about your story.
Well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to tie my story into some of the questions that you typically ask people, their journey in education, because I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, born and bred here for the most part. And I got all of my education years in Milwaukee, my primary, middle school, high school. And I went to college in Wisconsin as well. And upon graduating college, I went to school for theater and communication. And upon graduating college, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. Like that was my thing all the time. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be an actor. But then I got scared. And I had, as you know, this field is, it's a scary one to step into. It is not, what's the word I'm looking for? A woman for, to be a woman with a lot of words. Often I'm like, what word do I want to use? But theater is inconsistent. It is not steady. And it takes a lot to build the relationships with the people in order to just get into this industry. And so when I was graduating, I was like, I have to be stable. I grew up very unstable. And so I was like, I have to be stable. I don't think I can I really want to do theater. I don't know that I can do it though. And so I had been studying with Center for Urban Teaching in Milwaukee, which is an organization that trains teachers. And I had been doing that like since my sophomore year, because initially I was like, I wanted to do education, but education and theater was too much together. And so I started working part-time at Atonement Lutheran School here my junior year of college. And I would go and I would do their drama club after school. And then I got offered upon graduating a full-time job at the school to teach performing arts. And so I graduated and went directly into education. And I went and I taught performing arts. I taught theater, music, dance, and spoken word to K through 8 students. And I did that for a few years. And then I ended up leaving that job and I went to another school. And at that school, I taught 5th and 6th grade English language arts, 5th grade science, 5th grade religion, and 5th grade homeroom.
So you do have a... Okay.
I have education back.
I love it.
I work with kids a lot. I love children. And so I've done a lot of work with children, both in the academic education realm and also with one of the organizations that I gave to from the pre-sales of my book is Signature Dance Company. And I've grown up a Signature Girl. And in that company, I went from being a Signature Girl to working at camp as a teacher to managing camp to becoming the camp director and writing their shows. So I've worked with children a lot. But I'm telling you this because when I was a 5th grade teacher, I had a student. It's one of my favorite stories that I've told, especially the last few years, as people have asked me about my career. I had a student in my 5th grade classroom. His name was Daniel. And we were doing a writing prompt one morning. And in my classroom, I had this wall that was like the dream wall. And it had a lot of pictures from theater, the shows that I'd done in college and or high school. Like it was a lot of theater pictures. And my students that morning had to answer a writing prompt. It was a letter to your future self. So write a letter. What do you want them to know about your future self right now? And my student Daniel, he wasn't feeling it that day. Daniel was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And he wanted to be a basketball player. I was like, come on, you want to be a basketball player. What do you want your basketball player self years from now when you're out there on that court? What do you want them to remember about you? And he did not want to write this letter. And so he said to me, Miss Grandberry, why we got to write this letter? It's not like you went out to chase your dreams. And I was like, whoa, whoa. And so I said, you know what? If you sit down and write this letter, I'll go sign up for an audition and we'll make a deal. And so I did. I Googled theater auditions in Milwaukee, and there was a show. I can't even remember the name of the show. It was a Christmas show. It had a long title, but it was with Morning Star Productions here. It was a community theater. And I signed up for an audition. And then I was like, to make it even more real, I'm going to go to it just to prove a point to him. Like, see, I'm doing the thing, Daniel.
And then you got the links.
I auditioned for this show and then I booked it. And it was like $200. Like, you know, to chump change, really, gas money, maybe.
Right.
And so then I was like, I'm going to do it. And so I did this show while I was a teacher. I would be in the classroom all day, and then after school, go to a rehearsal from 6 to 9. And it worked out with the schedule. And I ended up doing this Christmas show as a musical. It was fun. And my students came to it and their parents came to it. And it was a great time. And I remember doing that show. And then I got done and I was like, oh my goodness, why am I afraid to do this thing? And I wanted to figure out how to get into the industry full time. And so I reached out to some mentors who were mentors of mine in college and had stayed in contact with them. And they really were like, bet, we got you. And we're going to connect you with some other amazing people who's closer to you, because they both lived in New York. And all these Black women, literally, got together. And I felt like it's like sending somebody a care package with all the things you need to feel better. And they like cared for me in a way that got me to the place where I am right now in this industry. So they were like, we're going to help you build a book. We're going to help you prep your monologues. We're going to help you learn some songs. We're going to connect you with some other people in the area that you're in that will help you build connections and relationships with theaters there. It was like a domino effect of meeting these Black women who were like, I got you, I got you, I got you, I got you at every turning point. And I went back to school like that February after winter break. And I had finally made a decision I was going to leave the classroom. And I told my students, and they were so upset. They were so upset. But I truly have a student, my 5th grade student, Daniel, to thank for one, challenging me, because he didn't want to do his writing prompt. And
that is an amazing story. That is an amazing story. So when I met Heather and then I met you, I was at this, I don't even know what you want to call that Zoom meeting we were on where you launched your book.
for everyone.
It was an amazing celebration. One of the things that I heard you say, and I probably saw it somewhere on your website too, is that you described writing as one of the best ways that you use to express yourself in a way to heal and challenge your intellect. Tell us more about the moment in life when you realized writing was going to be your thing, and how you actually used the writing of your book for healing.
Oh, that's a good question. So I have been writing poetry when I was in middle school. I'll start here. When I was in middle school, I was in a program called B to S, like brother to brother, sister to sister. And it was like a mini version of a sorority fraternity. It was ran by 2 people who were a part of the Greek world, and they ran this program for kids. And so we were in middle school, and you had the pledge, and you had crossing day as well. And when we were in B to S, we had to memorize these poems. And I remember like learning them and loving, like, I was like, oh, it became my my affirmations, like the things that I would think of immediately when life got hard. And so there was this poem called Don't Quit. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're traveling seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the depths are high, you want to smile, but you have to cry, when cares are pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. And it's a long piece, and we had to memorize this, and we would recite it, and I got so used to hearing it and saying it aloud, and I loved the way it made me feel, and it carried me through, like even then in middle school. And there was another poem called If You Can Keep Your Head Up When All About You. I can't even recite If, it's so good. And it's a famous poem. All these pieces are really famous, and we had to memorize them. And I remember being like, I want to write like this. I want to write poems that reflect like what I was feeling, and something that hopefully helped me get through. And so I started writing poetry anytime something would happen, because it felt good. I was like, I'm going to write this, and I'm going to write it in this very spoken wordy poetry way, because it was a release in a way. And so from middle school on up, I would always write poetry, but I would only write it for me. I did it for the rest of my life. At that point, I only wrote poetry for me. And when this was 7 years ago, I think 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, I was sitting on a friend's porch, and I was writing a poem called Laughter. She was doing homeschool with her daughter. And after they finished their assignment, they were like, oh, what did you do? And I was like, oh, I just wrote a poem. And she read it, and she was like, oh my goodness, would you want to write a musical for us? Because it was with the theater company that I worked for. And I was like, a musical? I don't write musicals. I was like, I don't write for other people. I just write for me. But it was the beginning of that conversation. I feel like was sort of the was the match that lit fire up under me to share my words beyond me, like that that what I had to say in poetry or in storytelling through my words mattered and could benefit other people.
Those are two stories about people lighting some fires under you. You know that.
They are.
But you had to be open to seeing what that could mean for you. Like,
Yeah.
the student could have said, yeah, you didn't do blah, blah, blah either. And you could have said, yeah, well, whatever. But it motivated you. She motivated you too. That's amazing.
Yeah. I very much so had imposter syndrome in both those cases. Both with being an actor, I was like, oh God, I don't know if I can do it for real. And then with being a writer, I had mad writer imposter syndrome, even after the first musical I wrote was produced and was loved and celebrated. And when it was time for the next one, I still had imposter syndrome. I was like, I'm not a writer. I just play with words sometimes. And so it's taken a lot to get to this place of being like, oh no, I write poetry, I write plays, I write musicals, and I do it well. Yeah, I actually do it pretty good. I'm not too shabby at it. It's taken a minute because I had deep imposter syndrome with both of them. But once I wrote my first play and musical, and I had already had all this poetry, some of the pieces in this book, like Parent-Teacher Conference, I wrote in high school.
Wow.
And it was an aggressive poem when I wrote it in high school. And I still have all the originals of these pieces, many of them in the book. So 4 is the very first poem that is in this book. And then Parent-Teacher Conference, I think, is the very second one. They're old. Like,
wow.
High school me old.
Wow.
And the original version of Parent-Teacher Conference has so many swear words. And I was like, oh, I was an angry kid. Like, I was an angry teenager. Like, nobody gives the freaking frack about me. So to go back and revisit it in a way that was productive, and also like at an age now where I understand everybody did the best they could with what they had, is a different story than what I wrote back then. And so to marry my teenager self and my adult self in this storytelling creates almost a new piece, because it's a heavy edited version from the original one. It's gone through many drafts, but yeah.
Okay, show us your book and tell us about this title because I didn't understand the title at first either. And then while I was on the Zoom while you were doing your coming out party, I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my God, we throw stuff under the rug.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell us about shredding rugs.
Spreading Rags. It's like a poetic cleansing by Lachrisa Grandberry. And the title. So I think everybody has heard the phrase, maybe not, sweep things under the rug. You're always sweeping something under the rug. And I grew up very much so in a culture of sweeping things under the rug. And I I didn't know what it meant as a kid.
Mhm.
Like I heard it often, um, of people sweeping things under the rug, but I didn't necessarily know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant for real. And so as I became an adult and understood things more and read more books and unlearned a lot, I realized I had perpetuated a cycle that I didn't necessarily want to be a part of, which is sweeping things under the rug and being silenced and silencing ourselves when traumatic events happen that should not have happened to you. And especially when it happens within your family and you are told to not bring shame to that family. Like they don't want you to tell anybody or just keep it hush hush, or you feel like everybody but you are being protected in a scenario. And it happened beyond my own story. And the more women in my family that I've heard their stories or pieces of people's stories, the more I realize this cycle of sweeping
It's
things under
huge.
the rug. It is
It's really huge, Lucressa, because you don't, I think, even for me, and of course, this isn't about my story right now, but you don't know how that impacts you in other ways. Like when you were talking about imposter syndrome, I know that my experiences as a little girl and sweeping a whole bunch of stuff under the rug led to me not believing I belonged in certain spaces. Be quiet, just be seen and not heard, like all of those
Mhm,
phrases.
mhm.
So okay, so tell us about the book. So
So this book really was a huge part of my own healing journey.
Mm.
I have been I've been in therapy for many years. For 5 years, I did therapy, and we joke around now that I graduated therapy this year because I don't see my therapist as much anymore. But consistently for the last 5 years, I have met weekly and every now and then twice a week with my therapist to work through my traumas and get to the other side of them, because I reached a breaking point 5 years ago where I like got in this very dark and depressed place, and I knew I was like, it won't be me. And I felt like on my own, I thought, by I thought, I got to air quote it, because I would have assumed like, no, I dealt with that. I worked through that. I'm good. Like,
Mhm.
so I'm over it. It happened. It whatever, all those things. You feel like you're fine, you're good, and you never realize how it's affecting you in your daily life until it becomes so much that you're like, well, what is it? And then it's not until I got help outside of me that I was like, oh, I never actually dealt with it. I just sort of suppressed
Swept it under the rug.
and swept it under the rug. And now I am under this rug with all this stuff suffocating. And I am arrested by my traumas. And they are triggering me in ways that I did not imagine would happen because I thought I was over it. And I am trying my best to be happy and joyous and choose lights and love. And I am still suffocating because I have not let any of this stuff go for real.
Mm.
And so as I work through therapy, I I got to a lot of oh goodness, I don't know. We went through so much, but there's a note to self in here that I'll share. And I hope I can.
Yes. Read from the book. Yes.
I know I have a lot of notes to selves that are either things that whether or not they were said to me, it was either something I said to myself or something that was said to me. And it is, I found it quickly. But there's a note to self that says, there is no how should I feel. There is no should in how I feel. How I feel is how I feel. And I kept feeling like, well, I shouldn't feel this way anymore. And my therapist stopped me. She said, no, 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 no. There is no how should I feel. There is no recipe for how you should be feeling, because what happened to you only happened to you, and there's only one you. And you don't get to know how you should feel in that moment. There's no should in how you feel. How you feel is how you feel, and that's okay. And it can be complicated, and it can be conflicted, and it can be confusing, and it can be sad, and it can be happy. It can be all the things at once. But how you feel is how you feel. And I think that for me was a big step in allowing myself to just feel my feelings. And there was a lot of feelings to be felt. And so in my therapy journey, I feel like that was probably like my halfway through over the last years.
Yes.
And in the last few years, I knew for myself in my own journey and in my own healing and in my desire to not participate or perpetuate the cycle of sweeping things under the rug, I needed to shred rugs and truly release myself and release the dust. And the way that I found comfort in doing that, obviously, I told you I like writing poetry. So I'd already written a lot of pieces about things that I've gone through. And I wanted to get to this place of truly releasing all the stuff out of me. And so I started to compile it into a book. And I took every poem I wrote and I put it all in one book. And then once I actually met with Bird, we combed through, there were so many pieces. Like this book, it's a thick book.
It's a thick book.
It's a nice
I
chunky,
loved it.
it's a nice chunky book and collection of poetry, but it's not even half of what I have. I have so many pieces, and I put them all in the book, and I was like, I want to dismantle this system. And I want other people to stop suffering and stop being arrested by their traumas, and to not be afraid to speak their truth and speak it loudly and boldly because of what somebody else told them they should feel like or should do. I just wanted people to be free. And there's another, and I actually said this to my friend before, a friend of mine. It's another note to self in this book, and I'm really not sure what page it's on, but I know what it says, where it says, I'm not sure why I was granted access to healing in this godforsaken world, but I'll be damned if I let it go to waste. And that, to me, has been my call to action for quite a few years, is I somehow, some way, some shape, some form, by God and all the people around me, have made it to the other side. And not far in the other side, but like the other side enough to peek back and know the difference. Have made it to the other side of the trauma, where I get to experience true healing. And not healing that looks like suppressing, but healing that looks like addressing what happened to me and why things happen. And because I'm also an actor, and because I am also a playwright, I enjoy studying humanity. I enjoy studying people and trying to get an understanding of why we do the things we do and what happens to us and how it affects us and how we become the people that we become. And so I got so deep in this thing that, like, I made it to a part of healing that I have never seen. Like, one of the things I write about often is that there's a poem called Cancer Ate Her Healing. And it's a poem of my perspective or my observation of my mother and how cancer ate her healing because it took her before she could heal. And I got to meet a version of myself that is so new to like meeting this version and not even seeing other people meet this version of themselves, and not in this way, because it's not to say that other people I know haven't healed or whatever, but it's to say I've gotten to a place where I've healed enough to want to stand naked in front of the world and say, I want to be free from it all. I don't harvest any of these secrets anymore. These are not mine. And I don't want to waste my healing. And that is where that note to self came from, where I don't know why I was granted access to healing in this godforsaken world, but I will be damned if I let it go to waste. And this is my attempt to not let it go to waste. Because a lot of things
So beautiful. You have to do some sort of retreat, a weekend or something with women talking about. You got to do that, but that's a whole nother story. We can talk about that. But I'm waiting on that one. But anyway, if we bring your experiences and what you've spoken with me about so far this morning back to education with those of us who are trying to kind of shred rugs in our own way, peeling back systems of inequities and stories that our students tell us of things that they're going through, of being seen, unseen, unheard. Are there lessons from shredding rugs? Because I know there are some. Could teachers and leaders use to create these spaces where students can find their voices and we can all start to heal together? Like, how could we use ideas from your text? Could we write our own? Like, what do you think we could do in the classroom to shred some rugs?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I could cry. My teachers, my educators, like growing up, oh my goodness, they really are my heroes. There's a whole poem dedicated to them.
Yes,
There's a whole poem dedicated to my teachers, and I'm gonna find it.
yes,
Because it's a long one too.
good.
The First Light. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
It's called The First Light, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 pages long.
Oh, start us out. Just do the first page. Do the first.
Yeah, I'll give you a little glimpse.
Okay.
But it says, before the sun stretched across the sky, Miss McInnes would arrive, 5 a.m., comb in hand, turning tangled strands into quiet dignity. And I'm going to stop right there. So I'm going to explain what I mean. At this, and Miss McInnes wasn't one of my like educational teachers. She worked at the school, oh gosh, in programming.
Okay.
And so she did like a lot of the after school stuff, but during the school day, she would be doing programming stuff. And she would pick me up in the morning at 5 a.m. and we would go to school early, go to her office, and she would do my hair. She would do my hair so that I look like something during the day. Oh gosh. And now I told you about the poetry. Miss Cornelius handed me poetry, words like lifelines, syllables stitched into my soul, because I can quote, don't quit without thinking about it, because it is literally stitched in me. And she gave me that. I'm going to flip through, because Miss Koenig, my drama mama, gave me more than the stage. To this day, this is how high school she was. I always call her Mama K. She's my drama sub teacher in high school. Miss Kalinsky made science feel like soul work. Called me Grandberry, like my name was music, even when I forgot I mattered. In that science, I loved going to science class, and I talked too much. I was one of those kids who was always, Grandberry, go to class. Like Miss Kalinsky would see me in the hallway, and she'd always just yell Grandberry. And last year, I was in Milwaukee doing a show at Milwaukee Chamber Theater, and I walked out of the theater, and a few of my high school teachers was there, and all I heard was Grandberry, and I knew it was Miss Kalinsky, and I was so my heart burst. But these teachers, there's so many. I literally just go through at the end of this poem. Well, this isn't the end of the poem, but I'll tell you what it says. It says, they may not wear capes, but they're real heroes. They aren't paid to go above and beyond, but they did. They didn't sign up to parent, to protect, to heal, to see us when no one else would, but they did. Society would crumble without teachers like them, the ones who look beyond the books, beyond the standards, beyond the state test, and see the whole child sitting in the seat. And mine, They saw beyond my circumstances, beyond statistics, beyond what the world assumed. They saw me, and because they did, I learned to see myself.
So, number one, before I do this last question that I'm going to ask you, because I am not going to cry on my podcast. Just number one, we do an event called Connections at National Lewis every year, and we have speakers who motivate us for the year. When we get off this call, I am submitting your name and that poem to be our guest speaker at Connection next year. I'm just letting you know, so somebody's gonna be in touch with you. But that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. So at the end of the podcast, most of the time, while I'm getting ready to talk to people, like certain authors or quotes come to mind. And when I was thinking about talking with you, I was thinking about Bell Hooks. One of her quotes is, "To fulfill that mission, my teachers made sure they knew us. They knew our parents, our economic status, where we worshiped, what our homes were like, and how we were treated in the family." What do you think about that quote?
I love Bell Hooks. I love Bell Hooks. One of my favorite writers. I sit with All That I Love every year. It's
Yes.
the book every year. I mean, I couldn't agree more. My teachers really did see me in a way that can and can't be explained. And I think for me personally, they got to know me in honesty and without judgment, and listened. And they didn't allow me to make excuses for myself, and they didn't make excuses for me either. And so in their seeing me and knowing me, they didn't stereotype or they didn't put me, make me a statistic. They were like, yep, nobody showed up for Parents Teacher Conference. It's okay, you're here, I'm here, what are we doing? Let me tell you what you need to do then.
Yes.
Like, they very much so got to know me and understand me. And I think that's so important. I really do. I think it's important to look at the whole child before you and make them only them. Don't group them in with any other child, but see them as them and them alone, and don't compare them, and don't box them, and don't belittle them. But I think it makes all the difference when people can do that, and especially educators, because for my life personally, when I did not have parents to show up, my teachers did, in a way that was like, hey, I may not be able to, tuck you in at night or hold your hand throughout life or do all these things, but what I can do is prepare you. And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to see you so much that you have to see yourself, and I'm going to challenge you so that you learn to challenge yourself. And I'm going to push you so that you don't settle for anything other than your greatness, no matter where you are. And I think that's what makes us great humans, is when we have great teachers who really do see us.
All right, Grandberry, I'm going to go because I'm going to start crying. Thank you so very much. I swear I didn't even know about your connection to education in that way. I just loved the book, and I loved your story, and to find out that you've been in a classroom in front of people. Like, I want you to end your career going back into the classroom. I need you to go back in, because we need people like you. Like, you're the reason why I even started the podcast. Like, because the notions about what happens in our school are so negative all the time. Nobody hears the stories about teachers like those you had, women picking you up in the morning. We don't hear those typically, but thank you so very much. I don't know if you want to send us off on I'm so excited about this conversation.
Yes, no, thank you. I would agree. I feel like I'm an actor. And so, as an actor on the stage, when the show is done, the audience applaud. And sometimes you get the joy, I got to quote a joy, it's not always a joy, of reading a review or seeing what people say, especially with our day and age of social media.
Yes.
But as an educator, you do not know truly the impact you've had on a kid's life, because it comes and it goes so quickly, even when it's in 1 year. And so to be able to be an adult now and live a life where I can have where I've had the chance to reflect and look back and still be able to reach out to those teachers and say thank you. Thank you. And I want to applaud you because you made a difference in my life in a massive way. And I get to do that both in my writing, and I get to do that when they randomly show up to my shows. And I get to do that even on social media where I come across an old teacher of mine. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you. And so I am a product of so many amazing people. And the First Light really are the educators for me who stepped in and went above and beyond. And so thank you. And we do need more.
Thank you so much.